Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Finding Strength. I'm here with Dr. Mike Israetel of Renaissance Periodization. How you doing today, Mike?
Pretty good, man. Thanks for having me on your travels and whirlwind adventures.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. So, for those of you that don't know, Mike is a high-level bodybuilder and powerlifter. And
let's like it was easy on the high level.
He's a bodybuilder and powerlifter, and also you're a doctor of exercise physiology,
sport physiology,
yeah. And he's a professor at Temple University.
Yep.
So kind of tell me what's new with you. What have you been up to?
Well, I just did a bodybuilding show that I was preparing for quite a while. It was a long diet, and unfortunately I got sick right before the show. Lost a lot of blood through both holes. That was fun, but so I've kind of been in the post-show, I guess, rebound phase, so to speak, after.
Okay.
And I am just in off-season mode now, which means fundamentally I still eat very well, and I'm slowly gaining. The goal is to gain about 1 pound a week of tissue over the next 6 to 8 weeks. Then I'm going to be doing a kind of a midi-cutting phase to resensitize the body to more gains, then going back up again. So training hard. You and I will be training hard later today. Yeah. So, fundamentally, the next goal with bodybuilding is to put on more size, get leaner. If I'm looking as lean as I should be, do a competition and keep improving. After this little fiasco, I still had a pretty decent showing. I won my class at my show and took second in the overall, but I wasn't super satisfied with my appearance because the getting sick interfered with like dropping all the water that was necessary, so I came in a little fluffy. But some people reached out to me after and were like, "Yeah, it really sucks that your competition didn't go well," and I agree that it sucks. But I think fundamentally, especially I'm going to be 33 soon. I've got a lot of years left in the sport if I don't like break in half or some shit, or my heart doesn't explode. Which per last week, I'm not I'm saying that might actually happen, but. I think the big key is on loving the training and diet process and keep dieting, keep training so that you get better over time. This is like nobody becomes a really good bodybuilder or becomes their best version of a bodybuilder like overnight. It's not ever about one show. It's like, okay, let's say you suck at a show, you fucked up, you didn't peak, kind of like my history so far. I'm walking around in the single digits body fat in the 230 pound range. When I nail the conditioning finally, I've got a lot of muscle,
Yeah.
And how does that muscle materialize? It's not about just training for one show. You don't put on a bunch of muscle training for a show. It's the lifestyle over years that counts. So while it does suck that, the show didn't go super well for me, I'm still alive. I have most of my blood is building back up, but it's all about, for me, the growth process, putting on muscle in a phasic structure, then getting leaner, then doing it over again. I look nothing like I looked like 3 years ago, look like a different person versus 6 years ago. Yeah. Down the road, it's an eventuality, unless I break in half, that I will be nailing contest condition. And when a guy with enough muscle nails contest condition, all the lean, smaller guys that could one-up you before are left kind of like, okay. It's almost like, so it's like for strongmen, I guess to make an analogy closer to home for you, when you have someone who is brutally strong at the core lifts, just hasn't learned events yet, you get to laugh at them at their first strongman show or meet, and then the second, but after the third, you're like, oh fuck, this guy squats 900 pounds. When he figures out how the yoke works, like, we're all fucked, you know what I mean? So
yeah, that's a big, huge thing is, people come into it with such potential, and if they don't actually put the time into building those foundational things, and, they get passed up, where you do have a lot of guys like that come from powerlifting, squatting 900, deadlifting 800, they don't put the time into it because they think it's all strength, and then all of a sudden they get left in the dust. So I'm sure, bodybuilding, it's the same thing. You got guys, awesome genetics, that just say, I'll crash diet 3 weeks out from a show, and then...
Or guys that just stay lean all the time and never put in the work to get big.
Yeah,
I mean, I've probably gotten at points fatter than I should have, especially just starting out growing muscle. But I will say this, at the end of that process, I'm pretty fucking jacked.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just happen to guys. I know there's a lot of people who just try to stay really lean all the time. They're fat phobic, even to the point where like they don't even want blurry abs and a couple of veins. They want crisp all the time. Sure, they look great all the time, but they're 170. 170, 175,
Yeah.
maybe 180 eventually, and they're like, well, I was never off. But like, yeah, but there's people who have your genetics who weigh 215, 220, 225
exactly.
because they weren't always looking good. I actually have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Have you seen, like, because back in the day, you didn't get to be a strongman. You didn't train for strongman until you were really jacked and really strong, and it was just apparent that you had to go seek out the implements. Now that the implements are available at more gyms, there's more local guys using them.
Yeah.
Are you seeing, obviously there's a huge benefit of getting to work with implements more, but are you seeing a little mini side effect of guys who get to the implements too soon and don't put enough into their core lifts and kind of get really technical with implements but aren't making progress in the sets of 5 to 10 squats, deadlifts, overhead presses that really make you, you know, Brian Shaw size, Zadruna size, etc.?
Yeah, I think a big thing I've noticed is obviously paralyzation by overanalyzation.
Oh, of course.
And so a lot of guys are coming in and doing is they're just going through all these lifts and they're trying to get better at the events. They're not getting stronger. And so there are a lot of guys that I think that come in and, you know, and men and women too, that are, yeah, they're not putting the time in to build the strength. They're just doing event after event. And I'm not a huge proponent of doing events all year round. It's good when you first starting off. Yeah, you can do a little bit of event work on a Saturday. But if you're doing events 4 times a week when you're first getting into it,
It's not sustainable.
it's not sustainable. Not at a heavy level where you actually need to get stronger at them too. I mean, technique, you should be able to learn the events in 2 to 3 weeks.
And they're not overly technical, are they?
No, they're not. I mean, I haven't really noticed it. For me, I've kind of been removed from that beginner type. I've been just traveling around and, you know, I haven't competed very seriously in about a year or 2. So I kind of really haven't been in a lot of the events, but I am noticing a lot more people are focusing too much on that instead of getting stronger.
Well, it's easier because it gets the fun stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's just like playing around, and you think, okay, I'm training for strongman, and it's really fun, and it's heavy, and it's great, but it's like the not seductive stuff that you miss out on. Like, you know, like, how come Zadrunas fundamentally is so strong? Because he can do like sets of 5 with 800 in the squat.
Yeah.
Like, until you can do that, and shit, how good you are technically with the yoke, you just won't have the strength to do shit like that. So you don't just end up there training events. You just got to go in the squat rack for a long time. Most of Brian Shaw's videos that I see on his page is like shit in a gym. And you're like, well, where's all this equipment stuff? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to do that. But like, we're in here doing deadlifts and stuff. Like, that's how we're getting where we need to be.
Oh, exactly. I mean, Zadrunas himself, you know, when I went over there with him, he trains his ass off. Like, he's not, you know, he's not doing the next awesome training regimen. He's just going in there. I think when we deadlifted, we did 4 different deadlifts, worked up to a heavy single for each of them, and then went back down. We did 1 inch, you know, worked up to a max off 1 inch blocks. Then we did rack pulls. Then we did deficit pulls, and then we did RDLs. Like, he just works his ass off. That's it. When we did log, he worked up to heavy on log. Then he came back down, did, you know, triple at 80%, triple at 75%, and then he went to the Smith machine. Which I got a funny quote from him. I said, you know, a lot of people would think, you know, Smith machine.
I've seen that YouTube video of him doing Smith machine and people talking shit about it.
And he said, I don't care if it makes me look like a pussy. If it makes me stronger, it makes me stronger.
And you're moving weight around.
Yeah, he goes in and he busts his ass. And that's the thing is I think a lot of people are focused so much on the technique, they're not busting their ass. I think it's the same thing with weightlifting. You know, I've been doing that for the past year.
For sure.
And I've talked to a lot of coaches and a lot of athletes now. They're just saying nobody's strong. And so, you know, you see the Russian guys that are strong as shit, but they're not. And, you know, some of them have really good technique, but I don't think they're as focused on it as much as the Americans do.
A lot of times the Russians come into the technical game so early that they don't have to, their technique is crisp by the time they're teenagers. Yeah. And then it just allows them to continue to get stronger with crisp technique. But I think a lot of people I wouldn't even say the United States, but people who train without much of a coaching structure. I wouldn't say off of YouTube videos, but sometimes it's that bad.
Yeah.
Or just like a kind of local coach that maybe doesn't know what they're doing. I mean, it's really seductive to do a lot of clean and jerks and snatches and not really get in the situation where you're putting in heavy 5s, heavy 10s to get bigger, get stronger, presses and stuff like that. One thing that I always found to be a little bit missing from a lot of weightlifters' arsenals that you don't see missing in the countries that are good is strict overhead press ability, the barbell. And I'm like kind of like overhead pressing is my jam. Like I'm just good at it genetically, and the minimal amount that I've trained it, it's gone like nuts. So I've done 125 for a set of 8 with no leg drive, so 275 pounds a set of 8 at weighing 240. But like I would, I've been around weightlifters for a long time. I worked with weightlifters at East Tennessee, and the kind of stuff you see weightlifters posting in videos and stuff for overhead press is like, well, no wonder you struggle with a jerk. I mean, and the thing is, training jerks and push presses is super fun, right? You feel dynamic. You really feel like an athlete. You don't really feel like an athlete doing sets of 5 in a strict overhead press. You just feel like shit. But I mean, if you can, what has Klokov overhead pressed before? Like 350 pounds?
Yeah, the last thing I saw was 160 kilos, so
352 strict press.
Yeah.
I mean, what's he going to have problems with on the clean and jerk? He's not. On the jerk, he's not going to have any problems.
No. Well, yeah, I think people, like we said, take it back. They don't look at the strength as much, and if you're going to excel in weightlifting too, I think most athletes that excel at weightlifting are athletes that are good enough to say, "Hey, don't move your arm or don't pull with your arms yet," and they can just go, "Oh, okay."
You need to be athletic.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing is I think the athletes can progress. That's why I think younger athletes should stay in different sports and have weightlifting in there. So you can learn patterns like that, and that's a big thing that's helped me. Is like I watched the video, I was like, oh, these guys aren't pulling with their arms, and then boom, my clean went up 20 kilograms.
I remember when you first started posting weightlifting videos. And the first couple, it was like, woof, rough, and then you're like, oh, this is getting pretty good at this stuff, and then the technique starts to clean itself up. So as long as you're open-minded, and the thing is, like, the cool thing about your journey into weightlifting, I think, is that you didn't have an ego about it because you were already good at a bunch of other shit, and you had no fundamental strength deficit. So for you, it was actually a really easy road compared to a lot of other people, or more straightforward, where all you really had to do was start practicing the techniques.
Yeah.
Because you already had the muscle, you already had the strength, and you didn't have an ego about it. Because a lot of people, like, for example, you say don't bend your arms when you're cleaning. A lot of people, any kind of alteration by definition, even if it is net huge benefit, immediate implementation results in a degradation of your abilities.
Yeah.
Because it's just a new pattern of movement. So I think for a lot of people, so coaches like stop bending your arms, they stop, and that day their clean goes down. They're just going to bend their arms again because they don't want to waste it away because they have this ego attachment that's that's the only thing they've been good at. They haven't been good at it for very long. That 125 kg clean, that's the PR. They tried 127 with the straight arms, it didn't go. They tried it with the bent arms, they hit 127, and they're like, okay, well, I don't know, I know I should be doing it with straight arms, but damn it, and they get into this thing where I feel like with you, I mean, you've already pulled well into the 6s, like maybe close to 700 or
deadlift. I've 725.
So by the time you got into weightlifting, it's like you don't have any egos about, like, all the weights are straight up never going to impress you.
Yeah.
Like when you're doing cleans with 315, it's not like, I don't think you, correct me if I'm wrong, but you never thought, like, if I just fuck the technique up a bit, I can get 325. Like, who gives a shit? Like, you've overhead pressed 325.
It's really hard to have an ego in weightlifting when you have CJ Cummings, who's 16 years old, clean and jerking 200 kilograms, and you're just like, shit, well,
might as well learn the technique.
And it's the long road. It's going to get me, if I bend my arms and I clean, maybe it'll get me 2 to 5 kilograms now. But if I learn that technique 6 months, a year down the road, and that's the thing I think a lot of people mess up on, is they're not willing to look at that year-long process. When you do bodybuilding and you're going into a diet, like you're looking at going into the show and then coming back out of the show. And so people think 12 weeks, 16 weeks, but it's really 32, 36.
Sure. Yeah, you bet.
And it's really 32, 36, then another 16 weeks back into dieting.
Sure.
And then,
but a lot of weightlifters, when you say 12, 16 weeks, a lot of weightlifters, a lot of powerlifters, strongmen, they don't even think in those kinds of terms. Like a week, one of the most, while we're ranting, one of the most baffling comments I've ever seen in either a video or on social media is, oh, I watch this video where this one coach said to make this alteration to my technique, and it goes one of two ways. I tried it and it works really well and it felt great and I lifted more, so I'm going to do it. And the other one is, I tried it and like didn't feel that good, so I don't think it works. Motherfucker, you have no idea if it works.
Yeah.
You need to actually implement it to where your nervous system is comfortable with that technique and high-level force production, because anytime you alter technique, your total force production goes down because your body's not particularly sure where it's supposed to be putting anything. A perfect example for a real kind of beginner crowd listening to this is arching in the bench press.
Yeah.
There's like, you run into like, you've been around gyms, a lot of gyms, and there's always like that one dude who benches like 455 for no fucking reason. He's like a bro. He's never heard of any powerlifters. You're like, do you know who like this guy is? And he's like, who's that? And you're like, the fuck? Like, you're just not, not involved in the social media stuff. Yeah. And you're like, and he's like asking you, like, you bench more than that, so he's asking you for tips, like, what do I do? And you're like, well, fucking try this, right? He tries it, and it's alien, right? It's such a weird feeling, so then it doesn't make him strong right then and there. And a lot of people, even powerlifters and strongmen that should know better, are like, well, I tried that technique to work and it didn't work for me. You got to give it time. Like, first of all, you got to understand, I would say, it's a good idea to understand the technical background of why that torque works. Like, if you talk to Chris Duffin at all, and he's talking about blocking, he doesn't just say, here's how you block and brace.
Yeah.
He's like, this is why it's a good idea.
Exactly.
If you think through it, you're like, oh, that makes sense. So even if it feels weird on the first try, you got to believe it's going to help you, almost certainly. So first of all, know why you're doing it. And second of all, make that investment over weeks.
Yeah.
And then you'll go back, and weeks later, you'll have no fucking clue how you ever did anything before. I remember when I was benching just like a regular bro, I was like 16 years old, at a Jewish community center gym, and this guy came in who was like a seasoned powerlifter, and he was like, you could be really good at bench pressing. And I was like, thank you. He's like, you have no idea how to bench press, let me teach you. And I was like, okay, it hit me. And I remember arching and retracting for the first time. I felt so stupid, and I was weaker. But then like 3 weeks later, I had this realization, like, how the fuck did I ever bench without an arch or retraction? Like, and I see people at the gym. You ever do this? Like, you watch someone bench, like, even if it's not a lot of weight, like, let's say you're between sets, and some guy's loading on the bench, and you wait for them to do cues that just never come. Yeah. Like, the guy lays on the bench, you're like, he's about to set his arch up, and he's just like, and you're like, okay. So I used to, like, now I see that stuff, and it's totally alien to me, but it took an investment. It takes an understanding, like, you can't, and that, like I was saying, it's one of the weirdest things in the world when lifters that are in the sport 3 years, 5 years, 10 years say shit like, well, I tried this little quirk and it didn't work. My next question is, how long did you try it for?
Yeah,
and they're like, well, just like one session. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Fuck out of here. That doesn't work. That doesn't count.
That's one thing I try to tell people when I'm coaching them or programming for them is, you got to give it 6 weeks. Or even if I'm not programming for them, like, if you're going to do something, it's got to be 6 weeks minimum.
That's nice.
More like 12 weeks minimum.
That's really
before
good.
you say anything, because technique stuff like that, you're doing it, something's clicking, boom, you're like, holy shit, that really works. And it's just amazing me how impatient people are for.
Oh, sure. They expect everything to be immediate. And I mean, it's not like a statement about like society today or culture today. People have always been like that. They're probably better about it now than they used to be, but you still have that, especially young lifters that have impatience. They want everything to work right at the same time. One of the best examples, just from pure sports science that I can come up with that delayed integration effect, is at least technique is sort of a linear process where the more you do it, the more it clicks, the better you are at it. So you're like, hey, listen, guy, just give it 6 weeks, but by week 3, you'll know what I'm talking about. By week 3, they're going, it's feeling much better. I'm not lifting the loads I was, but now it feels really good. And they know by 6 weeks it's going to be like effective. The phase potentiated stuff is more difficult. So for example, guys will say, like, okay, I realize like my triceps are not big enough for benching the weights I want to lift. You're like, okay, time to get big triceps. Like, great. They just do what I'd like to call a non-program, where they just go up to singles all the time for no fucking reason. And they'll, consistently test their strength. They're always testing their preparedness. For what? I don't fucking know, unless there's a surprise meet coming up. So they'll usually lift heavy, and they'll add in tricep volume. Like, they'll do like skull crushers afterwards or some shit. And they'll notice, because the tricep volume is building their musculature, but you don't see that effect for a couple of weeks. I mean, you could see it week to week, but what else is the tricep volume doing? It's adding fatigue.
Yeah.
So that next time you bench, your triceps are still a little bit fucked up. And that's good, because that's how you grow. But they'll be like, oh yeah, like, so I think it's not my triceps because I've been doing skull crushers and stuff and getting stronger on them, but my bench is going down. And you're like, fuck, you're so fucking stupid. Like, take a block where you're not benching for maxes.
Yeah.
Just bench for 5s or 8s. Put in triceps and don't worry about your bench moving up. Get stronger on JM presses, like a lot. After 6 weeks, you get stronger on those. The next 6 weeks, put the tricep work on the back burner and then hit your bench again. And after that, 4 weeks of that, you're like, oh my God, you're beasting PRs. And like, that's how that shit works. But because of that fatiguing nature of adding extra shit, a lot of guys will add stuff and it just won't ever work for them. And they'll be like, yeah, man, it just didn't work. Like, I added leg presses to try to get my squat up, and my squat just went down. I'm like, went down over the course of the next session. I'm like, wow, you got to figure it out, man. Everything in our sport, everything in strength happens in one session. You're the man. Here's your fucking PhD. You're a graduate. Bro University, you're a fucking graduate. Like,
and, you know, that's when I saw some of my best strength gains, or when I stopped maxing. And I just was like, oh, maybe if I do sets of 5, work up to a heavy 5, you still get that reward where you're like, oh, I hit set of 5,
PR?
but you know, you're not hitting that max effort 90% plus every week, which is going to run you down and kill you. And I have all the injuries to show that.
Don't we all, man? Yeah, we've all been to high school.
Well, I wish I could say that was high school. That was just me getting into strongman and tearing everything I could. But,
isn't that like the purpose of strongman? It's like,
yeah, you're not, you know, it's a badge of honor to have that torn bicep.
That bicep tear is a strongman thing. That's like, I remember when I started watching strongman as a kid. I'm a huge strongman fan, by the way. But the injury rate and the, I almost want to say like the acceptance of that injury rate among the top guys is like baffling. Like, because usually like you'll talk to a bodybuilder that gets hurt, and they're like, oh, I heard you tore your quad. And they're like, that's it, man, I'm fucking done. A strongman will tear his trap off and be like, tore my trap, but we're going to regroup and I'll be ready in another 6 months. And you're like, this doesn't phase you? Like, man, people get hurt all the time. See guys' heads fucking come off their bodies and shit. You're like, I guess it's just part of the sport.
Yeah, you know, and I think it's starting to change a lot now because there is getting programming in strongman, and there are people that are actually becoming coaches where, you know, when I started off 10 years ago, it was go in the gym and work your ass off for 4 hours and go as hard as you can every single time.
Whatever implements you have, just do them.
You had, and just, you know, we'd go round robin for 4 to 6 hours, just busting our ass. And then, you know, but now, and also I'd compete 4 to 5 times a year, and that's when I started getting injured.
Holy shit.
Oh, yeah. And so, but now, you know, we're getting smart about it. It's like CrossFit. CrossFit came up, people were like, you're going to get injured doing CrossFit. Oh, no shit, you're going to do anything that much, you're going to get injured. And, but, you know, eventually the coaches got better, boxes got better, same with strongman. Yeah, people are like, oh, there's science behind this.
With the funny that you bring up CrossFit, like, you know, at RP we work with a ton of CrossFitters, and it's funny to me that there's still this, like, I think one of the last vestiges of anti-CrossFitism, which I'd say, I used to be anti-CrossFit, back when CrossFit made ridiculous claims, like, we're going to be able to train all athletes better for their sports than their dedicated strength conditioning, which is nonsense. But now, the best thing that ever happened to CrossFit is it became its own sport. So now CrossFitters aren't trying to, like, be like, oh, I bet CrossFit would be better for this. They're like, you know what CrossFit's good for? CrossFit. It's own legit sport. It's one of the most legit sports on the planet as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. If anyone has any fucking doubts about CrossFit being a legit sport, motherfucker, you try that shit. You want to be world class at CrossFit? If it's that easy? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, some of the stuff, like, when you see, like, like, just for us guys, like, to relate to what the guys are doing. Yeah. Like, the two of us, we look at the strength stuff and we're like, we could do that. Yeah. And then they're like, what was that guy's mile time? How far did he swim? Are you out of your fucking... He could do handstand walks? If I did a handstand walk, I'd just break my own neck immediately. Oh, yeah. Like, it's just one of those things where... So it's super impressive on its own, but it's undergone this evolution of, first of all, becoming its own sport, and second of all, it's not ridiculous anymore. They don't make crazy claims hardly at all. The training is organized, it's purposeful, there's coaching, there's programming. Yeah. And a lot of people have seen that, and most lifters now, like most serious lifters, they don't have a fucking single problem with CrossFit, because it used to be like CrossFit was like the big laughing stock. Now it's like legit and everyone respects it. Though I've seen some vestiges of CrossFit hatred, like that irrational CrossFit hatred, and a lot of it's like in the bro community, where like it's some bodybuilder that has a fucking 5% jug. He's like fucking, he's like, you know, like you like say workout, he's like, what are you doing, CrossFit? Like, no, CrossFit's stupid, but you're the man. Like, your cutoff shirt and fucking backwards hat or whatever, you are the shit, but CrossFit sucks. You're right, you got it all figured out. You're like, what's your program? Be like, fucking train by feel, brother. Like, wow, CrossFit's so stupid. Like, get out of here. So people are sometimes still in that bandwagon on CrossFit where they're like, oh, CrossFit, LOL. And it's like, There's no more LOL. Those
No.
guys are more jacked than you. They're faster. They're stronger. They're everything. You wish you were a CrossFit guy. Fuck off.
Dude, and yeah, it is amazing to me. And I think what I really found respect for him is when I was working with Alex Viata, and I was going for the 777 challenge, so 700-pound deadlift,
I never knew you did
700-pound
that.
squat, 7-minute mile. So
Fuck
that's
you.
what 2015. I dropped down like 250.
Down to 250. Huh?
And
Did
so-
you hit it?
No, I didn't. My mile time, honestly, is because I was so used to the strength side that I was a pussy mentally when it came to the running. Like, and
What
that's
did you-
when I was like, "Holy shit, these CrossFit guys are insane!" Because
What did you do with your mile time? What was the best you got?
I think I got like 750 was my
That's
best
still
mile.
crazy, man. For a 250-pound guy, that's nuts.
It was pretty good. Yeah, I was running a lot, and but my deadlift and squat never got up there either because I just and that's what made me realize like, holy shit, like lifting these huge weights and doing the running is just killing me because I think I hit a 700-pound deadlift, but I think like 630 something was my best squat when I was down that weight.
But you cut all your squats high anyway. If you went lower, you probably.
Yeah, I need to start working on my depth a little bit, get
That's
that
it.
mobility, start doing the ROM WOD.
Yeah, back when I powerlifted like a decade ago, I had a lot of spotters just straight laugh at me because I would just high bar dump everything all the way down. It wasn't a dump; it was just full squat. Like,
Yeah.
and they were like, I would have to like tell spotters because it was all equipped meets back then.
Yeah.
And I would literally like walk up to the board like, "Folks, this is going all the way down." They're like, "All right," and then they like literally laugh as I was doing it. They're like, "Oh, you're crazy." Every now and again, they'd be like, "Dude, if you cut that squat high," I was like, I don't give a shit. I don't even care."
And all the way down in equip meet is that parallel.
Yeah, exactly. But so when I went to Olympic depth, it was just confusion. Like, they're like, what the hell's wrong with that guy? And it's funny because I got a lot of feedback, like, like you put on equipment and stuff like that and squat to depth, you could like be winning these things. I don't give a fuck. Winning what? Like a fucking trophy? Like, awesome.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I've been told that in powerlifting, and I just
I'm
did it
sure.
on a whim. Like it was more of a just something to do because I was burnt out from strongman. So, but
So you had guys telling you like you squat too deep and you shouldn't do that.
oh yeah, I've had people tell me all the time like if you brought your squat up or
What do
widen
you
it out, I'm
think
just
about
like,
that?
If if that was my goal to have a huge squat,
To be as big of as much of a total as possible.
yeah,
Like,
then I would. But I've torn my pec twice. That's not attached anymore. So benching is kind of out the window. So even if I did get my squat and deadlift up super high, I'm never gonna have more than like a 450 bench. Like,
sure.
So strongman's my
Peckless
passion.
bench press.
Yeah, and strongman's my passion. So
Sure.
it's fun to hop in a powerlifting meet once in a while, but I'm never gonna seek
I
that.
remember watching you compete live at Nationals at USAPL. And I remember I was like, all right, Zach squat, I gotta go over there and watch this because I already knew about the squats. I was like, oh, that looks so goddamn good. And everyone else was just like, what the fuck is going on with that
Oh
guy?
yeah, the head judge. As soon as I came up, I think I opened with 600 pounds,
Uh-huh.
and as soon as I came up, the head judge just started laughing.
Red lights, too deep.
So, yeah, but I'd like to do other competition eventually, but weightlifting right now, and then just kind of going back and forth to weightlifting and strongman.
What are your goals for weightlifting? What are you thinking?
I'd like to do nationals. Honestly, actually, I think next year I might try to qualify for strongman, weightlifting, and powerlifting nationals.
Of course, why wouldn't you?
So,
Me too, bro. I'll see you there. At none of them.
for shits and giggles.
That's really sweet. What are your numbers in weightlifting currently? What are your best numbers?
140 snatch and then 175 clean and jerk. I believe.
Not
So-
quite Colin Burns yet, but
No, I have a long way to go
For sure.
and I think the strength is there. It's just me confidence and getting under the bar and
turning over the bar, man.
yeah.
You're like 10 years behind in bar turnover, so you got a lot of time to pick up.
Like I don't know if you saw the video I posted the other day where I basically caught 180 kilos with my neck.
I've seen them all, man. I watch all your videos and I'm like, oh, good God. Every now and again, it's looking pretty smooth. And every now and again, you just strength your way out of some dumbass situation. Like, he's not getting that jerk. It's a press out. Of course he could press out 180. Like, why
Yeah.
not, right?
It happens.
What's your best jerk from the rack so far?
200.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So basically, it's quite obvious that you're missing your cleans.
Yeah, just the clean. Yeah, I hit 440. So then on a split jerk, my push jerk 420. So
Yeah. that's up there waiting for you, basically.
Yeah.
Your whole clean and jerk is predicated on you getting that clean up to that jerk. And
It's gonna take more time and being patient, and, knocking it out.
yeah, fuck that, bro. We take all this bullshit advice we just gave out. You gotta just do it right away.
So speaking of articles and everything like that, tell me a little bit about your future plans, what you have coming up over the next couple months or year.
Yeah, so I guess by the time this video comes out, I probably have made this announcement, or if not, then I'll make the announcement after this video comes out. I am leaving the professorship for a while.
Okay.
I'm no longer going to be a university professor for the time being, because RP is getting so big and there's so much good work that I could be doing, reaching so many more people, that I think that's kind of the best use of my time. We started RP Plus, which is a members only group, and you'll be in on the webinar later tonight. We'll have you in. And it's webinars, content videos. We're eventually going to be expanding this summer. Dr. Hoffman and I and multiple other RP people, we're all filming courses. So like 8-hour-long videos. Exercise physiology, that's the whole course. Basically exactly what you would receive in a university lecture with the PowerPoints. Eventually we're going to make tests probably, where it's like you test yourself on your knowledge. No certificates, because we're there for pure knowledge only.
Yeah.
There's not going to be like, oh, congratulations, you're RP certified. It's, do you want to know shit?
Yeah.
Here it is. We're building that architecture, so I'm still going to be teaching in a big way, but to a much wider audience.
Okay.
I'm going to be doing a lot of YouTube videos, Omar Asuf with Chad Wesley Smith, and the membership group thing is, I'm really excited about that because we're going to build an entire library of lectures that are the equivalent or more of an undergraduate or even master's degree at the university level.
Wow.
We're going to have I don't want to make any crazy predictions, but probably by the mid-fall, we're going to have ready to upload probably 5 to 10 full-length university courses of information. Wow. And we're going to keep going. Once we get through the basic courses like exercise phys, basic nutrition, we're going to branch out on more advanced courses like nutrition for child athletes, nutrition for body composition, nutrition for endurance work, principles of endurance periodization, applied endurance training, all this other stuff. All of this isn't going to be one video at a time. It's going to be whole courses of stuff.
Wow.
It's pricey though. It's $20 a month. So, there's this big thing right now where I get a lot of messages from people saying, "Where do you teach?" I'm like, "Temple and Philly," and they're like, "That's 800 miles away from me." And I'm like, "I know, it's fucking right." And they're like, "How can I get an education in sports science without enrolling in it? Because school is fucking expensive."
Yeah.
And I may make a big pronouncement here. As far as actual knowledge, no certification, you can get that kind of education. You will be able to at RP University for $20 a month. That's it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's, with the digital era in full force, I think that's the future of education, to be completely honest.
Yeah, it is. I was actually listening to Joe Rogan on the way down here. Thaddeus, I can't remember his last name, but he has Renegade University.
Okay.
Basically, he's doing the same thing with history courses. Where he's coming out and saying, screw universities.
Yeah.
It's antiquated, and just we want to get knowledge out to people.
Yeah.
And we want it to learn. And I think that's the way education will be going. I mean, with Khan, MIT, they put out all their courses for free. Something like that's amazing, especially from people that have the experience and are doing it currently.
Absolutely. Because a lot of lifters come from this perspective where they can get a lot of practical information. That's not hard to find anymore. Their training is going well, but some of these individuals, many of them are personal trainers and coaches. They want to be able to help others, and they know that they can't just rely on their own individual experiences or stuff they had from other coaches. They want a foundational background, physiological basis, especially when a new article comes out. And people are like, "What do you think about this new PubMed study?" Well, if you don't have the background science knowledge, you have no idea if it's fucking good shit or not. You're like, I don't fucking know. So this, hopefully with other things like this, and hopefully the RP University, you can get the information available at university level for every single course that's offered. It's not just like, because there's a lot of stuff where it's like, here's this like little sports science mini course of 3 things, and it's like by basics of sports science. That's cool, but what about exercise phys? What about anatomy and physiology?
Yeah.
Like all the way literally from freshman year all the way to master's degree level courses. I think if you, and how do you fucking learn that shit? You go to fucking work every day, you plug in YouTube into your fucking car stereo, and you fucking listen to that shit, and all of a sudden you're learning. Like, you know, listen to Joe Rogan podcast, and I listen to him frequently. I listen to like Sam Harris and stuff like that, Dave Rubin. But like, you know, that kind of stuff, like I walk to work, it takes me 25 minutes. I walk back, it takes me 25 minutes. That's 25 minutes of me learning shit.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're a personal trainer or a coach or whatever, and you drive anywhere, or you walk anywhere, or fuck, you do cardio, plug that shit in, and you're learning sports science. Like, I'm super pumped about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be something awesome. You know, and I think a lot of people that do get into personal training and coaching, they go in, you know, with those certifications, they have no application behind it, and the people teach them have no application to it.
I'm getting you on the certification shit, man.
I think it's good to show people that you want to be there, but still, there's no, you know, if you can't learn from somebody who has applied these things that you're teaching, even in, you know, college when I took kinesiology, my professor was probably in a lab.
My professor had no idea what exercise was other than
exactly.
Did it.
She was probably in a lab, but I don't think she was ever coaching anybody.
Not racking any cleans.
Not racking any clean. So, you know, it would be nice to have a whole group of people who do this every day. Teach them.
That's what Renaissance is. And as a matter of fact, when we hire, we have a process for hiring, you know, Renaissance coaches. And our hiring criteria is like, if you have a PhD in the biological or sports sciences, that's a really good starting point. If you don't, you have to have an MSRD, so a master's degree registered dietitian. If you don't have either one of those, we've made one exception ever, and that's Jared Feather, who is in a master's program currently, and he just happens to be a natural pro bodybuilder. So we're like, all right, fine. But, you know, we're looking for those people that have those technical qualifications, that are professors, are registered dietitians. But we absolutely, just as important is, what is your involvement in sport?
Yeah.
We want people who are a lifetime involved in sport. So one of our, I would say she's our flagship coach, even though nobody knows who she is because she stays under the radar, Dr. Jen Case. She's like the ultimate, she is like the Renaissance queen. Like that's what Renaissance is as far as coaching, is her. So here's her background.
Yeah.
PhD in sport nutrition, no big deal. Registered dietitian in addition to that. A certified athletic trainer in addition to that. This is getting fucking ridiculous, right? CSCS certified strength and conditioning coach. This is like kind of a joke at this point. So she's got all those letters and numbers, and you think, okay, well, she's some like lab rat person that just got all these degrees. Former MMA femme fatale world champion, black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, brown belt winner at Pan Am's, 2 Masters World titles in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What hasn't she seen? So when an athlete comes to her for coaching, it's like, well, do you know the science? Like, yes. Be like, well, have you ever, never mind. Like, have you applied it? Like, I've heard people apply. Exactly, right? So she's kind of our, I don't fucking have those qualifications. She's our cream of the crop template, and everyone else that we ever hire is based off like how close we can get them to Jen Case. And if you have awesome degrees, but you're not familiar with the way sport works from a practice perspective, that's one of our literal questions that we talk about future coaches with. Is it's easy to put on your CV, on your resume, it's really easy to put like your degrees and shit. So we're like, okay, great, the degrees look great. So what's your involvement with sport? What's your involvement in your own fat loss journey? Because we have diet coaches. We never have a diet coach that hasn't run a diet. Because some people, like, ask a professor how to do a diet. I used to be that kid who in undergrad would ask his professors like diet questions, and they're like, well, technically, and they would just tell you what the book says, and you're like, how often you run the diet? And they're like, oh, I don't diet. I remember meeting some professors at functions, and like they'd have this like, anytime you have like a conference, there's like food, like cookies and shit. Or just eat like regular food. I remember meeting like sport nutrition experts that would just eat regular food, and it's not that we're not supposed to be eating regular food, but I could tell they were not running any kind of integrated plan. And I was like, there's something missing here. So the kind of thing that we're trying to do at Renaissance, and well, I guess we've been doing it, is we hire the kind of people that are super academically elite, but also have a huge basis of application to themselves.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I don't understand how you could relate to someone as a coach if you didn't walk the walk.
Oh, that's extremely important. I mean, when I was a coach with Spot Athletics, J.L. Holdsworth, that was his number one question when the new coach came in was, what's your experience lifting? They said, they could have a master's, CSCS, all this stuff.
Sure.
I said, I didn't lift in college. Like, I was too busy getting my master's degree. He'd say, well, bye.
First of all, having lifted all through college and getting a master's degree, you're never too busy to lift. It just means you have other priorities.
Exactly.
Let me go on a really quick rant on this subject. Now that you and I have already gotten into the kids nowadays kind of bullshit. So, what really kind of baffles the fuck out of me are people that want to rush in to coaching, to helping others, and the worst, be an inspiration. You know, motherfuckers on Instagram, right? Some of the motherfuckers on Instagram say, like, my goal is to inspire others. Who the fuck has a goal like that? I'm sorry. I really am. But that's a fucked up goal.
It is.
Like, let me just throw this out there. Like Mother Teresa, Jesus Christ, Buddha. Okay, these people have inspired more people, sum totally, billions, literally billions. Muhammad, billions. Do you think any one of them had the goal of inspiring people? No, they just did good, right? I guarantee you it never entered their minds.
Saying I want to inspire someone, that's just like saying, I want people to look at me and then copy me.
It's insane.
That's what inspiration
It's insane. You're supposed to inspire by walking the walk. The inspiration is secondary to you becoming a fucking badass. Like, and also, so there's that I want to be an inspiration kind of bullshit, but there's also people who get into coaching, like, they'll do like one meet or no meets, and all of a sudden they're writing programs and shit. I think it's great as far as practice is concerned. Like, the way I started writing programs was I just did it for free for friends and relatives.
Yeah.
And I never charged anybody because I didn't have the audacity to charge people money.
Yeah.
I was like, they're like, is this going to work? I'm like, I'm experimenting on you. And I would legit tell people that.
Yeah.
Like, my friends have all, like, you talk to all of my friends in undergrad, and they're like, he used to experiment on us. He would have us do it like this, do it like that, see what worked. But, like, you didn't charge people for that shit.
No.
Nowadays, and it's not because of Instagram and Facebook, it's just Instagram and Facebook ferrets these people out, of people who are like, okay, I'm in fitness after 3 weeks, I'm going to inspire other people. I have a website for coaching services. And like at that point, like people ask, like, how has Renaissance been so successful? We got PhDs Mike Caruso, 2-time World's Strongest Man competitor, PhD in biological sciences. We got him against Instagram coach. Who the fuck you think's going to get hired, right? Like,
yeah, I've talked to a lot of coaches about this too, and it's, the coaches that are putting in the work, you're not really going to hear about them too often except word of mouth. They're not on Instagram saying, hey, look at me. I can think of 2 strongman coaches, Clint Darden and Mike Westerville. They're some of the best coaches in the country when it comes to strongman.
I've heard of Clint Darden, but that's just because he pesters me on Facebook.
Or Mike Westerling, not Westerville. Westerville's in Ohio. But yeah, so basically, they coach some of the best strongman athletes in the world, but they're not on Instagram saying, hey, I inspire you. I want to inspire you.
Yeah, they're definitely not saying that. And I think it's cool to have like a big platform for popularizing yourself. That happens after you become good, not before. And these guys, I happen to know both of who they are, and I've talked to both. They're basically both like walking fucking corpses because of how much training they've done with themselves. And if I was to ever seek out a strongman coach that wasn't fucked up and injured, I wouldn't be interested in that at all. I don't know. Obviously, you haven't trained sufficiently hard to do that. Like, if you're looking for a jiu-jitsu coach, and his face isn't fucked up and his hands aren't fucked up, he's not a jiu-jitsu coach. Yeah. Like, I remember one of my very good, I call him a friend, but more of a mentor, Jiva Santana is a phenomenal jiu-jitsu practitioner, and he's out in California when I go train there. And I remember I came back from London, and I trained at a good gym there, and one of the black belts, basically broke my finger in half. Yeah. I, grabbed his gi, and he was like, and I was like, whoop, there it goes. I finished the roll, though, which was sweet. You don't really feel anything until the train right after. It's not, actually, I have this knuckle right here. It doesn't look like the rest of them. So I was like, so Jiva, I went to London, rolled at Haji Gracie's gym, and he's like, oh, cool. I was like, I think I broke my finger. He's like, oh, watch this. He lays out his hands, and every finger is pointed in 3 different directions. I was like, oh my God. Like, I could just imagine, like, him and he's like a really mellow guy. You just imagine, like, him and his wife out to, like, dinner somewhere at a bar and getting in late, and then, like a pair of, like, bro cocksuckers would be like, fuck, that guy bumped into me, let's fuck him up. And, like, one guy notices his hands, be like, I don't think that's a good idea. You see that guy's hands are, like, his ears are, like, pointed, his fucking nose is rearranged. Like, you look at the guy and you're like, fuck. So, like, with strongman coaches, the powerlifting, weightlifting, everything, if they didn't walk the walk, and if they're older especially, if they don't have like 50 different fucking injuries, like I got my PhD under Dr. Mike Stone, trained his entire life. He had every fucking conceivable injury ever, but he also had the wisdom of how he got to that injury, and how he got back out from that injury, and dumb shit not to do to get hurt. And another piece of wisdom, which I'd like your take on actually, I talked to him, obviously, like, we all talk to him all the time because he's fucking he used to train with Bill Kazmaier. He's like 1,000 years old. He more or less invented U.S. sports science. Unbelievable, right? I was like, Doc, what do you think about injuries and when do people get hurt? Is it during high fatigue states? He goes, yes. Usually high fatigue states result in wear and tear kind of injuries, where your elbow starts hurting and then later you realize your triceps like hanging off the bone and you're like, shit, I pushed it too hard for too long. But he said something that's really mystifying. I'd like your take on it. He goes, Southern accents, Tennessee born and raised, like, now, Mike, you know what the thing is? A lot of the worst injuries I've ever seen are guys when they're feeling good. And they push the biggest weights ever, and that's how they get hurt. And I was like, what do we do about that? He's like, other than warming up properly, a part of strongman especially, weightlifting, powerlifting, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You just have to do your best to do good technique, not be a fucking idiot about shit. When you feel something feels off, stop or reevaluate. But like, guys will say, like, some guy will get hurt on YouTube and they're like, well, it's because of, it's like, you don't know anything about why they got hurt. You push enough big weights, you'll get hurt feeling your best, because that's when you can produce the highest forces that will stress your structures the most. What do you think? Do you think there's some truth to that in what you've seen? How predictable is injury in strongman especially?
It's not. I'd have to agree with him. I think a lot of times guys get injured from, like me, when I tore my bicep. I was
you're a real strong man.
Competing 4 or 5 times. I think I competed like 4 times in 6 months. And then I went for the national axle clean press record after not having a very good warm up. And you know, I just ripped it off the ground and I heard snap, and that was it. But I've seen guys that are coming in somewhere 100%. You know, they've put in 16 weeks,
well warmed up, and everything.
well warmed up, just pops. It's kind of one of those things that, I don't know if it's the angle that they grab it or what, but it's like, I think I agree with them. I think it's that fatigue is the kind of stuff where you get the tendonitis in the elbow.
But you're not strong enough when you're fatigued to really pop shit off.
No,
that's the thing. But when you're at your strongest, I'm always like, when I'm hitting a PR weight, even in bodybuilding for like sets of 8 and stuff like that. Like, I'll do pause squats really heavy for sets of 8. When I'm doing that, that's like, when I'm hitting those PRs, that's when I'm most cautious. That's when I'm like, I really feel I gotta really warm up, because I know, and you know, like, you hit that last rep and you're like, let's go for another one. I feel like at least 50% of the time you should just not, because that's when a lot of guys do get hurt, is that last grinder or whatever.
Yeah, I've always followed. Well, I started following rule from J.L. Holdsworth again. No more than 2 PRs in a. If you're going for PRs, no more than 2. Then you cut it off
in a session.
In a session.
Interesting.
Why? I guess the theory is you're doing that many reps over 100%. Like, you know, anything over 85, like, you go to a Prolapin's chart where is it, you know, more than 3 to 5 reps. So when you start getting 90, 95%, so just
it's
hit that one
an
PR.
extrapolation of Prolapin's chart.
Yeah, exactly. So hit that 1 PR, fine. You're, you know, what, 105% usually. Go to 110%, cut it off.
Cut it and run. Yeah.
Because, I mean, there'll be more PRs.
Yeah.
And so
you just you reduce fatigue in your next session, and then the session after you can come back and hit PRs.
Yeah, exactly.
People think, like, you know, people like, there's something to be said for momentum, that when you're feeling good, hit it.
Yeah.
But then I love that advice that he gave of like just 2 and then you're done.
Yeah.
Because that's when you start getting greedy and shit starts to go wrong. And half the injury reports I've ever seen is like, oh, fucking hit 2 PRs and then that third something just popped. And you're like,
well, exactly. Man. And that's come from a guy who, you know, when he was at Westside, he was probably one of the best geared powerlifters, one of the best powerlifters ever come through Westside. Except he pushed himself to that point where he literally got on the platform after people said he shouldn't squat right now because you have a broken back. He said, fuck you, went out and took it, and then he was out for forever.
The predictable happened.
Yeah, and so he, one of his things he always liked to say to us was, learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so
that's part of being a good coach.
Exactly, and that's why I think now you can't have a, if you have a coach that's never been hurt and has been lift power for 2 years, like, he doesn't know shit. He doesn't know what it's like to come back from that, or she.
Yeah.
Gotta be PC. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's, you have to have these guys that have that experience to go, oh, you're too overtrained right now. You've been pushing yourself too hard. Stop. Take a week off. Because I know so many people, especially on Instagram, who do not take more than a day off in 6 months. And then, I think I've trained 4 times in the past month. I feel great, and
once
I didn't lose a lot of strength.
Well, once you have the strength, it actually sits in really, really well.
Exactly, and
that's some insight from sports science that you wouldn't know, but for people who have done it and have the wisdom. We're opening up a sports science textbook because they've done these studies where they detrain people on purpose. They bring them back 2 weeks later, max them out. Fine. 3 weeks later, just a tiny drop off. 4 weeks later, of no training, you have like a 5% drop. But the thing is, as soon as you start training again, you get to your all-time best again.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the thing about like maxing all the time and doing the Instagram bullshit. People think so fundamental idea they have is, if I'm not always pushing it, I may not be getting stronger, but if I'm not pushing it, I'm getting weaker. Like, what is it? Like, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards, like some dumbass motivational shit. That's just fucking wrong. In physiology, making gains is really hard.
Yeah.
Maintaining is actually really easy.
Yeah.
And when you maintain, you drop the fatigue of that hard training, so that when you're back to hard training, you're not ripping yourself in half. I think the fundamental structure of all sport training across every modality is move, relax.
Yeah.
Move, relax. If you don't do that second part, first of all, people think that second part means you're just getting worse. You're not getting worse at all. I mean, you trained once per week for the last month. You're fucking gigantic. You're the most muscular as I've ever seen you, and I've met you before in real life. Like, it's not like, oh my god, like you got out of the car and I was like, oh, that's fucking slacking. Like, no, I was like, fuck, this guy's in shape. Like, the thing is, in the rapidity with which fitness characteristics like muscle and like strength come back is absurd. Like, before I start a cutting phase, usually I'll take a maintenance phase where I don't train very much at all, just with like relatively heavy sets of 5, but like super low volume. I don't have a pump, everything's not crisp. 3 weeks after I restart hard training, I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my god, I'm Superman. Like, and it's the best it's ever been. But does that 4 weeks of easier training buy me that extra 3 weeks? It buys me 16 weeks of not in danger of being too fatigued training.
Exactly. Going back to Jonas, first times I ever met him was, I was ecstatic. He came and trained with us, but I was also,
I would just shit myself.
I was also I was kind of bummed because he came in, we were doing axle clean and press. I was like, yeah, I get to train axe. My bread and butter with Jonas. We went up to like 300 pounds, took it once, and then just kind of sat down. I was like, you gonna go up higher? And he was like, no. I was like, why not? He goes, I'd rest. World's strongest man. So he was just resting, taking a couple months off, training here and there. So he was gonna ramp up.
World's Strongest Man?
Before World's Strongest Man.
Interesting.
So this is like February, and World's Strongest Man would have been back then, I guess, August or September. So he was just kind of like, just resting. Because he didn't compete in the Arnold that year. Yeah. And he was just getting ready to ramp it up for World's Strongest Man.
You have to.
That got in my head. I was like, oh man, like this guy's taking rests.
Yeah.
I need to take rests.
Oh yeah.
And
the thing is that, another thing really quick, Eastern European advantage is they grow up with sports science, like officially. The coaches there, they all know sports science. One of the things that I remember when I was in powerlifting, I would translate for Russians when they come over to do meets in the US and kind of help them out. The thing that really struck me was you would ask them what they were doing after the meet, and they would fucking win everything, of course. And they're like, oh, we're like actually just traveling around America, like to see it. They would do a meet in Florida, and then we're going to Texas, Chicago, New York, LA, San Francisco, and then we fly out. And I'm like, how long is that? They're like 3 weeks. I'm like, where are you guys going to train? I was 22 years old at the time. I was like addicted to training. I'm still addicted to training. What the fuck am I talking about? They were like, train. And I was like, I remember like watching their nutrition after the meet, like for a couple of days after. And it was just total shit. And I was just like, do you guys just take it easy? And they're like, fuck yeah. Like, when do you start training hard again? They're like, oh man, we're going to take like 3 weeks off after this and then start ramping back.
Yeah.
How many Americans do you know that can do that psychologically? Like, what does almost every American lifter say right after? Either after good meet
they're
or
back
bad
in
meet.
Monday.
Look, back in, brother. Which is, I don't want to discount that. That is an awesome fucking mentality. There is a part of that is awesome, but that has to be juxtaposed with the fact that that comes at serious costs.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a good idea to get some good high volume training in right after a meet while you're still pumped, because nothing pumps you up like a meet. You know?
Yeah.
If it's bad, it pumps you up. If it's good, it pumps you up. Take 2 months, train super hard, get a lot of volume in, then take that month of easier training.
Yeah.
And then get geared up for the next meet. But there's guys that just do, like you said, back to back to back to back, and they never pull away.
Yeah. No, it's and I think a lot of guys and girls that are doing it now are, they're under that 3-year mark, so maybe they can get away with it. But
and you can under 3 years.
You can,
maybe.
But yeah, it's gonna catch up to them eventually, and it's just.
But if you don't build good habits within that first 3 years, how are you going to just transition? Like,
that's the thing too, is that they're not building the foundation. They're building a mentality that's gonna catch up with them in the end.
Yeah,
and that's
a lot of people end up auto transitioning from the beginner mentality of just competing and training all the time to the intermediate mentality of let's take some breaks at a time. And they don't. And by auto transition, I mean what I used to call in bodybuilding auto deloading. You don't deload until you get hurt.
Exactly.
When you get hurt, you start deloading. It's like, why do we have to do that? Maybe we don't have to get hurt. So.
Well, and one of the best ways I was ever put, I heard it was I was at an Elite FTS seminar before I was on part of the team, and I think it was Chat Aches, or I can't remember exactly. Don't quote me, but basically they were having trouble with that because they were like addicted to training, and they said, if I'm not in the gym, like, I don't know what I'm doing myself. And they said, and I think Dave told them, look, take it as another training day, not training. Like, that's part of your training, is you sucking it up, putting in the work to not go to the gym. And
that's brilliant.
I think people really need to look at it and go, all right, if I'm training 7 days a week, I'm getting hurt, I'm getting worn out, my lifts are sucking, I gotta put this in my program. This is my day that's programmed to not be in the gym.
Yeah, or to be in the gym doing light shit, which is even sometimes more egotistically damaging, because like then you're actually training and people think, oh, he's training, and then it's all light bullshit and they like judge you. But if you're just not in the gym, nobody judges you.
Yeah.
But I've been in situations before, and I think we all have, where you're traveling around or something like that, and you're in the active rest phase or in a maintenance phase, and you're in the gym, and your friends or training partners or people you come visit, they're training hard, and you're not, or you're not training at all. And of course, some guy's going to be like, you want to jump in on these squats with us? And you're just like, a younger, more mature version of you would be like, yes, and it would be bad.
Yeah.
A more mature version would say, no, I don't, it's not good. But you internally would have these reservations like, oh, fuck, that was really hard. But the really wise, the really strong, the really experienced, they go, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And they're confident. And that strikes some people, like I've been in a situation before, they're like, why not, man? We're here training. I'm like, it's not part of my plan. They're like, oh, you always have a plan, don't you? I'm like, motherfucker, how do you think I got like this? Not having a plan? Fuck you. So it's about that wisdom and experience that hopefully individuals can learn before having the experience. But that's just a hope, right? Like all the stuff we're doing now, and when this goes live, there's a lot of people who are super wise.
Yeah.
And they're talking and they're saying a lot of the right stuff. The question is, are individuals who are starting out in sport or intermediates
listening to that?
It's a choice.
Yeah. And, that's the only thing that I'm kind of worried about in the future of the sports is whose voices are they hearing? Are they hearing an Instagram coach that's been doing it for 3 years? Or are they hearing guys like you, me, Dave Tate, Louis Simmons is...
Sure.
Much as people want to try to discredit him, he's one of the smartest guys I've ever talked to. And, you got these guys out there that they're just bastions of knowledge that nobody wants to hear because they're not posting, driving videos every day. So.
Sure, and even if they are posting videos, they're competing with a lot of people. One thing that is interesting to me is a lot of people who get a ton of follows on social media are really relatable. to the intermediates and beginners. How are they relatable? Well, they're not very experienced.
They're average.
Right, exactly. And they might be like exceptional in their abilities, but very average or below in their wisdom. So then you follow someone like that. Well, you can't absorb motherfuckers' genetics off of a YouTube video. So shit he's saying is kind of largely irrelevant.
Yeah.
And if you get a lot of those guys, as they get a lot of followers, you hear a lot of dumb shit. You know, this idea that sometimes the people that get the most followers have the most relatability means they might not have the kind of experience, wisdom, etc. level of advancement, because those people seem to think that they're exotic and not as relatable.
Yeah.
Like, for example, there's a gentleman who has a lot of followers, from what I understand, who people wanted me to debate him about cheat reps, because he seems to be a fan of cheat reps. And this guy, like, he's a big, strong guy, like, by drug-free standards or whatever, but, like, he hasn't been training for a very long time. And the stuff he's saying, I don't think it adds up, because he hasn't gotten hurt enough to know how really stupid cheating is.
Yeah.
And I'm both, like, much more jacked and much stricter with my technique, but I wasn't always strict. And back when I was about as jacked as him, I did cheat reps too, and it shit fucked me over. So it's one of these things where he's more relatable than me, for sure. But, and I'm not even saying that I'm some kind of a bastion of wisdom. I could be wrong about all this shit. But, you know, for those listening and those watching, relatability is great. True wisdom is harder to find. And look to those coaches that have really high track records, that have been around for a long time, guys that look pretty beat up. I think that's where you look to for wisdom, and you can follow the relatable people too, especially for inspiration and stuff, because it's hard to be like, oh, Louis Simmons, I'm going to watch his videos to get pumped up. Like, he didn't have any more videos, he's like fucking 90, right? But so you can watch those guys that have the cool videos and stuff, but when you do your reading, when you do your listening, look to individuals that have more experience. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I call it like the Batman syndrome. Like, everybody wants to be Batman, but nobody wants to live like Batman. And so the best aren't going to be relatable. They're going to be motherfuckers that are crazy and they kind of scare you a little bit. But you know what? You know that they know their shit, and they got that good because they're not like everyone else. They aren't relatable because they live a different life that, you know, it's just...
They live the life.
It's the beaten path that everybody wants. They want that end goal.
Yeah, and you don't have.
They don't want to go through that.
You don't have to go through their whole route. But
no,
if you want to look through the trees to where the forest ends, it's behind them.
Yeah.
So you may not want to get into the clearing that they did, but as close as you want to get to it, that's as far as you have to follow them. So I think that's that.
Yeah. Well, I think we got to head out and start training.
Let's get to training, and then we have the sushi challenge, which is going to crush all of us, and someone's going to win some free ebooks, but we'll see. Some of those guesses are completely absurd.
400 to 500, 1,000?
Yeah, 1,000 was just hilarious. I think that's a joke. I hope that person doesn't think they're going to win anything.
What did you think? About 180, 170?
Yeah, you know, I think that 150 should be doable, because between the two of us, I think we got about 60 to 80 each. The thing is, and this video comes out after the challenge is over, so it's funny. Charlie, who was 260 pounds and jacked out of his mind, and Asian for that matter, can't eat a lot of sushi or a lot of anything else for that matter. So people like, look, I guarantee they're clicking on Charlie's picture. They're like, holy shit, squats like 775. They're like, I guarantee he's gonna eat a lot. Like, nope. So he's our fucking dark horse. So it's up to you and I to see how. Basically, like, I know how much I can eat. We'll see where you come in on this.
All right.
I think anywhere between 150 and 200 is going to be realistic. I think some of the guesses are funny, obviously, like the 400 is fucking absurd. But I think some people were like 75 total, and I was just like, are you serious right now?
Like,
like,
one of us.
Exactly. So let's get to it.
All right, awesome. Well, hey, thanks for following me. Make sure you check out Mike. What are your Instagram?
At RP Dr. Mike on Instagram, at RP Strength for Renaissance Periodization, and RenaissancePeriodization.com. Come see me on Facebook. Mike Israetel on Facebook. It's a public account. Come in, ask me questions, troll the shit out of me. All in good fun.
Awesome. And then also for me, Zach Gallman on Facebook, ZGalls on Instagram, FindingStrength.us for the website, and then Finding Strength Strongman on YouTube. So check that out. And also Elite FTS, Hate Brand Goods, a trained strongman. You can kind of see all my content there as well. And thanks for tuning in.